Welcome to Passing the Plate, the podcast that's all about food, traditions, and the wonderful connections they create. I'm Lisa Lisson, the genealogist and family history expert behind Are You My Cousin?
And I'm Ashley Covelli, the food writer and recipe developer behind Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen. We'll be your guides on this flavor-packed adventure. We're not just talking about recipes. We're diving into family history, exploring new cultures, and preserving favorite recipes for future generations. In short, we're celebrating the stories and tastes that come with every bite.
So grab a seat at the table and let's embark on a journey of flavor, tradition, and connection. This is Passing the Plate, where every episode is a feast for the senses and a celebration of the ties that nourish our souls. Well, welcome to today's episode where we're digging into a topic that affects us all, grocery prices. Whether you're shopping in a big city or a rural town, the cost of groceries can vary widely depending on where you are and what you're buying. So if you've ever wondered why your grocery bill looks different from your friends in another city, this episode's for you.
As a food writer and recipe developer, grocery shopping is something I do quite a bit. So today we'll be comparing grocery costs between a few different types of stores where I live, which is about 45 minutes north of New York City, versus where Lisa lives in central North Carolina. So I grew up in the Midwest, and I'll admit I had a bit of sticker shock over, pretty much everything when I first moved to New York back in 2004. The price of living is so much higher here than where I grew up. I was in Indiana and Wisconsin. These days, I kind of have reverse sticker shock when I travel and I go back to see my family. And I'll be like, oh, something only costs this much. And it's like, that's kind of ridiculous, but that's just, geographically, that's just how it is.
Well, and I think that's why we thought it would be interesting to see kind of some of the price points and ingredients, not only availability between the different types of grocery stores or supermarkets that are out there, but, obviously in the different areas of the country that we live in. So I've, kind of always been in the Southeast. So it's definitely, if I'm traveling and I go into a grocery store, there's a really big sticker shock for some of that type of thing, because I do that when I travel. A lot of times we actually go to get something to eat instead of going out to a restaurant. If we're on the go or something like that and we want something quick and easy, we'll just go into the local grocery store.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So we wanted to look at, chain type markets, ethnic markets, some of the higher end supermarkets, and then one of my favorites, Trader Joe's.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Trader Joe fan. Oftentimes, these are common types of markets that you're going to see really across the U.S., regardless of where you live. So this could help us out. So by looking at this, we thought this could help us find out kind of what's the most budget-friendly place to buy maybe certain types of items, recognizing that maybe we need to get out of our normal shopping patterns and perhaps save a little money at shopping at other places. And it could also open us up and to exploring new places to source our food.
Yeah, and this could be tricky depending on where you live, but you can find options online. So when we were talking about where we were each going to shop for this episode, I asked Lisa about ethnic markets in her area, and she was thinking of some towns kind of close to her, but not necessarily right by home. And I just typed in Google ethnic market near in her hometown, and it brought a couple up that were within a few minutes of her home. So at least one of them she wasn't even familiar with at the time. So it can be a really great way to explore things that you never even knew were right in your backyard. Or maybe you find that if it's a little bit farther, but you could make a trip out of it and explore a new area. So when I go grocery shopping, I live very close to a chain supermarket and also to a small Latin market. So I tend to, even if prices might be better somewhere, but I would have to drive a half hour to get there. In my mind, it might be worth more my time and all that, the convenience of just going right here. So it's not always price isn't the final indicator necessarily.
Oh, I'm the same way. I'm not going to drive 30 minutes to save,
right,
a very small amount, a minuscule amount, because there's time and gas and all that involved as well. So, yeah, I'm not quite as close as Ashley is to some of the grocery stores, though they are pretty close. I did find with some of the smaller ethnic markets that were close by that actually I wasn't as familiar with. Sometimes the when they're open can change. Kind of, so, I went to one and it was already closed. And so, they're small, they're home, oftentimes family businesses. So things happen sometimes. So that sometimes you just have to be willing to kind of be open to that and going back if you need to.
Or call ahead of time, because even Google can lie, especially if it's a store you're not familiar with. There's no harm in calling and just say, how late are you open today? When do you open tomorrow? Just to verify. Because, they take, vacations and stuff. They don't necessarily have a huge staff of people to cover when they need to close to go out of town.
Right. All right, so a quick note about today's episode is that it is not sponsored by any of these particular markets that we shopped at. These are just our experiences that we are sharing with you as far as the local shopping scenes within our respective areas.
And we haven't discussed yet, because I'm so curious, like, what the price differences are, especially picking Trader Joe's as a place that's like the exact same store. So it's not just a type of store, it's the same like brand, same company. So I'm really curious if those prices are going to be standardized from where I live to where you live. And then to, listeners where you live, like if you notice some huge discrepancy, I would love to know. Or if you have some secret, like I go to this type of store for this ingredient because it's a great deal. Like I think I'm probably like a little extra excited about this episode because it's just like I'm in grocery stores a lot. So
Ashley and I have to laugh because she's in grocery stores a lot. I try to avoid grocery stores, actually. So I actually found this to be a little more challenging, certainly, than Ashley did. You're more likely to find me digging into old historical newspapers than running off to a grocery store. But yeah, it's still fun.
To be fair, because I work for myself, I'm able to go to the grocery store at off hours. You will not. Unless there's some urgent reason, you will not catch me at a grocery store around dinner time, around lunchtime on the weeks, or on the weekends. I try to avoid that because that's when more people are going to be there and it's just like a lot going on. Although some places like Trader Joe's, I feel like they're just busy all the time.
Oh, I agree. And that's kind of what happened with my adventure, because I'm like Ashley, working for myself from home. If I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to go in those off hours that are less peak, and thought I had done that. So as she mentioned, one of the stores that we went, certainly was Trader Joe's. It is, close to both of us. So we actually could do that and really have a really nice comparison. I thought I had chosen kind of an off time during the day to go. And I got there. I don't know what had happened, but it was a beautiful day, which seems after days of rain. So I think that may have happened. And it was so crowded, I could hardly move. And they had rearranged the shelves once again. And so I was just a little frazzled by the time I got out of Trader Joe's.
I will say, we're recording this in September. I bet you it's because they either put out all the pumpkin things.
Oh, yeah.
Or they had some like limited edition little mini insulated tote bags that people were going crazy for.
Oh, we didn't have those.
But yeah, because probably everybody beat you to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, like I know people in different parts of the country who they would get to Trader Joe's, line out the door for these, and then they would sell them online for like a ton of money.
Oh, wow.
The hustle is real.
Now, this is something I didn't know. So, as far as my Trader Joe's, so it can get really crowded, but the only time you'll ever see a line to actually get in was actually during COVID when they had to limit the thing. But when Bob and my husband and I have been traveling, we might pass one, say in New York City. I see this all the time in New York City, and there'll be a line just to get in. And I think they are limiting the number, but I'm like, there's a line to get it.
Yeah.
And that totally is foreign to me for how we shop down here. So
yeah, I've admittedly not gone to a Trader Joe's in New York City for mostly that reason, but also I don't want to trek groceries on the train back to Westchester. Right. But there are, I would say, 4 different Trader Joe's within like 25 to 45 minutes from my house. And 2 of them I really try to avoid because the parking is insane. So they don't have a line to get in the store, but you might not be able to find parking. And the aisles are kind of like close and claustrophobic. And then the other 2, there's a little more space. It's a little less insane to park. But I think that's because the parking lots are also for like strip malls. So there's more just parking in general. So you might have to park a little farther away. But that's been my experience with Trader Joe's.
That makes sense.
I do enjoy them. I just don't go super often because, again, I have stores that I can literally walk to. So,
and I do snag my pumpkin bread mix because yes, I can make pumpkin bread from scratch, but that's a really good pumpkin bread mix. Just saying. Okay, we'll get back to the topic at hand, but that one really did kind of get that. So so we both went to Trader Joe's because it was the same. So for the standard grocery store chains, I actually chose Food Lion, which is a well-known grocery store chain down here. I think they actually started in North Carolina at a Salisbury. Nice. Don't quote me on that, but I think so.
I see that when I go to Maryland, but we don't have them here, I don't think.
So it's you just kind of I think like it's kind of like a Kroger or something like that, so it is a chain.
So I went for my like standard typical chain store, I went to Stop and Shop. I know it's owned by Giant, so I think there are some other areas in the kind of surrounding states that call that Giant. I do in this area have other options, but this one's the closest for me. But I'm, after doing this experiment, kind of curious to check out ShopRite and Acme to see where they fall for some of these things. We decided to do I called it like a bougie market, like a higher end market. So I went to one called DeChico and Sons, which is kind of like if Whole Foods was like a family owned type of place. So it's a little higher end, a little more, it's in the town right next to the town where like the Clintons and Martha Stewart live, to give you just like an idea of what I'm dealing with in that area.
Oh, so for that store, for the higher one, I actually chose Whole Foods, which is, within driving distance, certainly, from the house. And then for the ethnic markets, the original one I wanted to go to actually turned out to be closed when I got there. So I actually am using the local Hispanic market down the street.
Okay. And I also went to a Latin market here in Ossining. This one is called La Placita. My other options would have been like an H Mart. It's like a Korean owned chain that's a lot bigger. The place that I went was pretty small, but they pack a lot of items in there. And it was a good chance for me to practice my Spanish. So.
Oh, no, they don't want me practicing my Spanish in that one. That's for sure. Actually, I had considered the H Mart because we do have one in the county, but it is significantly, further drive for me, and just time wise wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do that at some point, just to check out what they've got.
And then I just want to note that we did this kind of experiment in September 2024, if you're listening to this in the future. So, prices could certainly be impacted by seasonality of certain things. So just keep that in mind. If we were shopping, deep in the summer for things like fruit, it might be less expensive. So just keep that in as a note. So let's dig in. Let's start in the dairy aisle. We'll go for a gallon of milk because I feel like that's kind of something that everybody needs, I guess not everybody needs. A lot of people don't drink milk, but there's also plant-based alternative milks and things, which you might find more of at one type of store than another. For me, between those four stores, the best price for a gallon of regular milk was at Trader Joe's. It was like 50 cents less than the next least expensive, which was Stop and Shop for their store brand milk. So for me, Trader Joe's, it was $3.99, and then the next one up was $4.29 for a store brand gallon at Stop and Shop.
Interesting. So just so you know, that yes, at Trader Joe's it's exactly the same for me.
I'm so curious if they're all going to be the same. I'm so curious.
But it's about 40 to 50 cents cheaper at the Food Lion.
Than at Trader Joe's?
Than at Trader Joe's, yeah.
Oh, wow. So yeah, regular, like a bigger brand, not the store brand Stop and Shop milk at my regular Stop and Shop is $5.49. And then at the like bougie supermarket, it's $5.99.
That's what it was at Whole Foods for me. Yeah. It was
$5.99.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I feel like it's been more than that. Oh, I think I usually buy organic when I buy milk. So, which we did put that as an item also just to see. So for me, actually I need to do a quick math here.
I will say, I guess for clarification, I did, when given the option, I always chose for our little thing today, I did choose the store brand when I had the option for that type of thing. And now I did not choose, I did look at regular milk versus organic milk. And so, yeah, that was significant. So, it was significantly more expensive across the board to do organic.
Yeah, for So Trader Joe's for organic milk was $6.99. Was that the same for you?
Same.
Oh, I don't know why I just figured that they might do something where it would be less.
Like regional pricing, yeah.
Yeah. So in all of the stores other than Trader Joe's, they're in the like $7 to $7.99 range.
Yes.
For a gallon of organic milk. So it's like $1 less at Trader Joe's. But again, if you have a Trader Joe's that's close by, that might be worth it. And if you're getting other things there, but if you're driving 25 miles for a gallon of milk to save $1, like, are you actually saving? So it's just kind of something to note.
But if you want to get your pumpkin bread mix,
right. So then for me, tofu, because that's something we wanted to have kind of a comparison of representation of every type of item, like category of item that somebody might buy. So we have a couple meats on the list, but we also wanted to do tofu because it's like, I feel like the most common thing that you would find. I was only able to find that at, I didn't find it at Trader Joe's, which surprised me. I saw at Stop and Shop and at DeChico and Sons. So the Stop and Shop, they have like I don't know if it's necessarily organic, but their natural brand is called Nature's Promise. And that one was only $2.79. And the regular kind of mainstream brand was $3.29. But at DeChico and Sons, it was $3.99, one option.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You need to come down here. So
I feel like they usually have tofu at Trader Joe's, or maybe it was just so busy in that aisle that I couldn't get to it.
Well, there is that. They did. Yeah. They definitely had it there. So I usually get mine there, but it's actually the cheapest that I find it is actually at, I actually found it at Whole Foods for $1.69.
Whoa.
Which really surprised me. But when I think about it, because of the type of grocery store it is, they do have a larger, probably plant-based type of clientele than some of the others. And this was their store brand that I'm sort of not surprised. I actually also, while we didn't include this, I also shop at Aldi's usually on a regular basis. And that's actually where I usually buy my tofu, which is the same price at $1.69.
And for me, normally, if I'm in the area of H Mart, that's where I'm going to find the best price and most variety for tofu. And they even, I think a lot of times have ones that they make. So you can have packaged lots of different brands, lots of different textures. You can get it like just so many different types, but they also have like in kind of like how you would see a block of feta in brine, where you can kind of grab it out of there. And there's another store near me too, like that's kind of a natural market that has it like that. I get a little, especially during the whole pandemic era, I didn't want something that had been sitting out in liquid with people breathing all over it. So the packaged one is usually what I go for.
I did find it to be the most expensive at the general grocery store that I shopped at, but that's also probably because there was no store brand. There was only a name brand. And so that was what I had.
But that is interesting that for me, like the bougie market was the most expensive.
Yeah.
All right. So that's for our veggie friends. And then for our meat eater friends, we looked at chicken. So like a whole chicken. And I found a lot of variety here, so I'm gonna let Lisa go first because I have thoughts.
Oh no, she has thoughts. So thoughts. Oh gosh, I don't have a lot of chicken thoughts. Just saying, but
I didn't before this. This brought up questions.
So the most budget friendly place to buy a chicken, a whole chicken, is actually my general grocery store, the Food Line. It's 99 cents a pound for a whole chicken.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, at Trader Joe's it's much more expensive, but it's also cut up. And I'm not 100% sure. I realized when I got home, because it was really, it was about 4 times as much. It was cut up, and it's possible it was organic. I was having trouble getting up close enough. It was a crowded store trying to get to it to see it, because there was apparently a lot happening at the meat department that day. So, and then hopefully it just kind of fell somewhere in between for those. So I did try to pick the fresh ones. So yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thing. And then the ethnic market that doesn't even have meat, so that wasn't an option.
Okay, so that's interesting because for me, the least expensive was actually at the bougie market. The least expensive one I found was the store brand whole chicken was $1.09 per pound. But that went up to, then they had like like your Purdue whole chicken was $1.99 a pound. And that was the second least expensive from all of the stores, tied with the regular from Whole Foods. I'm sorry. The regular from Trader Joe's was also $1.99 a pound. And there the organic was $2.99 a pound, which was similar to Stop and Shop, which was $2.99 a pound for their Nature's Promise brand. Bell and Evans was another popular one at Stop and Shop. It was $3.49 a pound. At my bougie market, it was $5.49 a pound for the exact same type of chicken, which kind of blew my mind. That's like $2. It's $2 more per pound. It's almost twice it's like 1.5 times as expensive. And then their organic was $6.99 a pound. Then my Latin market, it is small, but they have a meat section upstairs, and their meat looked incredible. And they have a seafood. It's kind of strange. You go downstairs behind all the canned goods. There's this little aisle, and there's a bunch of ice and seafood, tons of seafood. And they have I couldn't even get in there. I peeked over to look at the price for some of the things that we're going to talk about. But what I found interesting was looking at the chickens. There were so many options for whole chickens. And if you want the ones with the feet still attached, that's where the Latin market had that. Just FYI. So chicken feet, apparently the gelatin in them is very good for making a really hearty stocks and stuff like that. You get a lot of that gelatin from the feet, but I've never personally cooked with them.
All right, I'm going back to tofu now, just saying.
But what was interesting to me is how the chickens were labeled. So I noticed, especially at DeChico and Sons, that we had some were labeled oven stuffer whole roaster. Some were just labeled whole chicken. And I went and I found an article I'll link from the kitchen's website, and it says, what's the difference between broilers, fryers, roasters, and other sizes of chicken? Because a similar sized chicken costs a different amount, kind of depending on how it's classified. So there was some really interesting information out there. I won't get into all of it now, but just we'll have that resource there for you if you want to take a peek. Because it was, I guess I only occasionally buy whole chickens. I usually buy them either cut up or boneless, skinless. So it kind of blew my mind that there were that many options. So moving on in the meat department, we looked at three other types. Well, we looked at a couple other types of meat. One being flank steak or skirt steak, because I feel like those two are pretty similar. And I was surprised by this. It was most expensive at the Latin market, but that was skirt steak. I couldn't find flank steak there. It was $17.99 a pound. The flank steak was the only one available at the other three stores, and that was $13.99 a pound at Stop and Shop and DeChico's, but then Trader Joe's was $14.99 a pound.
Same for my Trader Joe's. So it looks like Trader Joe's has same pricing.
Yeah.
Kind of going on. And then Whole Foods was a little bit more, $18.99. And then my local grocery store, just regular store, actually was only at $11.99. Oh. So I didn't think the cut looked quite as good, but I should full disclosure, guys, I don't really cook flank steak, so I'm not really sure what I'm looking for, quite frankly, when it comes to that.
And did you happen to note, when you were looking at these prices, if they were sale prices or not?
They were not. This particular item, it was not.
Okay.
Curious about your family's roots? Wondering who paved the way for you? Delving into your family history is like embarking on a thrilling adventure, but taking those initial steps can feel quite daunting. Are You My Cousin is your one-stop hub for tools, resources, and information to find your ancestors and uncover their stories. Dive into a treasure trove of helpful articles and captivating tutorials full of my favorite tips and strategies to decode your family's past. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just dipping your toes into the waters of genealogy, Are You My Cousin equips you to unearth the captivating tales of your ancestors. Let me help you start finding your ancestors with the Big Genie List, a free guide that I've created full of my favorite websites and resources to help you grow your family tree. To download your copy of the Big Genie List, head to lisalisten.com/biggenie.
We're going to move on to pork now, because that was kind of another, pork chops and pork tenderloin. That's something, especially pork tenderloin, that I cook fairly often. And this one actually really surprised me. The best price for pork chops And the best looking was at my Latin market. They were $2.99 a pound for bone-in chops. The next like least expensive was $4.19 a pound. So it was significantly less, and they looked amazing. They didn't have pork tenderloin there though. The best price on that was at Stop and Shop was $5.29.
Right. So the pork chops, or the pork loin chops, my best price was at my local grocery store, my local chain, and they were $2.79 a pound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I think that's where you're going to see some differences, like meat and stuff like that.
Definitely at the meat, but you also have to remember, we're a pork producing area.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not surprised that would be, that's consistent with the area that I live in, too. So, yeah.
And then you said your ethnic market didn't have meat or seafood. Mm-mm. Mine, that's where I found the best price on shrimp. They had so I'm going to link an article from the Spruce that tells you about the number of shrimp per pound. So basically the way they're classified, a pound of small shrimp, it'll say 51 to 60. So that's how many shrimp make 1 pound. So you can expect that bag is going to have between 51 and 60. We went to look at large shrimp because that's kind of, I guess, the most common that I use. I don't know about you, Lisa, but large is 31 to 35 a pound. And my stores were having a hard time with shrimp. Trader Joe's had the best price overall on the frozen shrimp was $9.99 for a pound of raw, so not already cooked shrimp. And then the Latin market had the best price for fresh shrimp. And they didn't have, what was interesting is they had $8.99 a pound for 36 to 40, which on this article from the Spruce, large is 31 to 35 and medium is 41 to 50. So it's like in between those two sizes. Oh, yeah. And then the next size that they had was 26 to 30, which is in between large and jumbo. So they're more size inclusive, I guess. I don't really know. But so for fresh shrimp, that was the least expensive. But I will also, just as a note, if you're shopping and you're not planning to use the shrimp like that day, a lot of fresh shrimp was previously frozen. So it's actually fresher to buy still frozen shrimp.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. The best place for us to buy it here is actually the local grocery store.
And mine had no fresh shrimp at all. There was no fresh seafood at my grocery store, so something must have gone awry.
Something must be up.
Yeah.
So where would you, obviously my local chain grocery store is a good place to buy meat from a budget standpoint, but where would you buy, say, like a vegan ground meat for you?
So, interestingly, the best price for me was Stop and Shop. So they had Impossible brand, which isn't my favorite for vegan ground, but that was $8.49 for a pound. And the Beyond, which is the brand that I prefer, is $10.79 a pound. So they had the best price there. Trader Joe's didn't have any.
Oh, well, no wonder, because it's $3.99 a pound.
Oh my gosh! So was it fresh or frozen?
It's refrigerated, so it's okay. It's where you find the tofu in that section.
So and I didn't find tofu either. So
groundless meat, yeah. And so it's where I said that I'm pretty sure it was 16 ounces. It might have been 12 ounces now that I think about it.
Those packages, but still,
yeah. Mm-hmm. It was still significantly cheaper, I thought.
Oh, wow. I will say that they do have sales pretty often at like Stop and Shop. And also, if you use any of those couponing apps like Ibotta or Fetch, sometimes they'll have also good deals on that. So I try to, if I see it on sale, I'll buy a couple and I'll freeze them because it's vacuum sealed, so you can pop it right in the freezer.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So one of the things that I know is the least expensive. Sorry, I'm scrolling. One of the things that I know is least expensive at my Latin market is citrus. It's pretty expensive at the regular grocery store for me. So at the Latin market, lemons, for example, were it says 4 for $1.99, but I mathed the math and it's 49 cents a piece. And then limes are 39 cents a piece. They have the sign that says 5 for $1.99, but that, like, compared to Stop and Shop, were 79 and 69 cents each. So it's almost twice as expensive. And they always have a ton.
I do find that if they have them, that it's like the little store down the street the Latin store has the better prices, say like on lemons or limes or things like that. If they have them, they don't always carry them.
Oh, okay.
But it's actually the same price at Trader Joe's for me as well. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Trader Joe's was 49 cents for lemons, which was also what I found.
Yeah.
At the Latin market, but the limes were also that much, but they were 10 cents less at the Latin market.
What about avocados?
So that's normally my hack is like buy them at the ethnic market because they usually have a ton. And especially if you reach real far in the back, you can kind of find the ones that are nice and ripe. So like if you want to make guacamole today, you can go there. You don't have to wait for it to ripen. But they were actually kind of expensive there this time. They were on sale at Stop and Shop for 88 cents a piece or 3 for $5, which is $1.66 each. So, and I think it might depend on time of year. There might be something with supply going on also. I usually buy mine from the wholesale club. Honestly, I'll buy like a bag of them.
Yeah. So definitely down the Latin market is a little, when they have them, is the best pricing around. Actually, my chain and Trader Joe's were not that, they were pretty similar with that, but it definitely is seasonality. And in my area, somebody's going to put them on sale. If they're not this week, next week.
Right.
So I can usually get them for under $1 at some store in town, or close by, because they do go on sale a lot in my area.
That's good to know. Another thing that I usually buy from the wholesale club, but I, for research purposes, looked into a pint of cherry or grape tomatoes for me was $1.99 at the Latin market. So that was the least expensive. I usually buy a larger quantity from the wholesale club because I love tomatoes. But what about you?
The local chain has the best prices on those.
And mine, the local chain was on sale 2 for $5, normally $3.99. So
we're $1.79.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we
grow them really well down here. No,
yeah.
I don't know where they came from, but usually I didn't this year, but I usually just grow them on my back porch.
Yeah, I had some, but they're kind of done for the season. Then kind of talking about tropical fruit, I was kind of surprised Trader Joe's had the best price for me on that. It was $2.99 because we have a lot of, even like my Stop and Shop has a lot of tropical fruit. We have a large Latin population, Hispanic population in my community. But yeah, it was the least at Trader Joe's and they looked great.
We didn't have a ton of tropical fruits at my Trader Joe's this weekend. Again, and it was really hard to get through that section, quite frankly. So I did not circle back to check it again, but I didn't see much in the way of those tropical fruits. Typically, though, the pricing is usually pretty comparable to my local grocery store for things like oranges or clementines or things like that when they're in season. So actually I usually get them there.
Yeah, I do love, I can find, if I want kind of more exotic fruits like star fruit, passion fruit, dragon fruit, I can usually find those at Stop and Shop or the Latin market or like an H Mart, something like that. So I think because of the population that lives here, they want that type of fruit. So we might have more access to it than maybe where, like, say somewhere else that I've lived that didn't have as large of a population who's used to tropical foods.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I got to ask you about the whole self-rising yellow cornmeal, because there was an entire shelf dedicated to cornmeal in my grocery store.
So if you remember our episode about Lisa's grandma's cornbread, you'll know that I can't find, and I still can't find, self-rising cornmeal here in New York. I can find regular cornmeal in the Latin market. I can also find toasted. Hang on, what was it called?
Toasted corn.
They have like pre-cooked yellow cornmeal, regular cornmeal, stone ground cornmeal, but we do not have self-rising cornmeal. So that was a no-go for me. But you had a plethora to choose from. In my local
grocery store, and it's not just, the food line that I shopped at that I was looking at for this episode, but in most of the chain stores down here, there's going to be an entire shelf of cornmeal. And you're going to have several varieties of self-rising cornmeal. And you're going to have store brands of self-rising cornmeal. So you can find cornmeal where I live. And so actually, just in case you're wondering, Ashley, because I think when you told me when you ordered it for that episode, and I about died when you told me how much I don't remember how much it was.
I'm gonna look at my Amazon purchase history,
because 32 ounces of self-rising yellow cornmeal is $1.89 down here.
Oh, okay. So
I could probably ship it to you for less than what you paid it.
Yeah. Wait, corn. Okay, so I had to buy online for this recipe. Self-rising cornmeal. It cost $11.99 for 2 pounds. I got free shipping because of Prime, but is it free? I pay a membership or like an annual thing. Right. And again, this particular brand ended up having the baking powder that had aluminum in it, and I couldn't deal. I had to ditch it. So,
breaks my heart.
I'll just have to go down to North Carolina to get some home cooked cornmeal down there.
You can make, you can just buy if you can find regular cornmeal, just buy your yellow cornmeal and add your extra stuff. But so it's definitely a staple down in this area for things. So
yeah, so things in that baking aisle, things that we actually do have. All-purpose flour was the least at Trader Joe's, was $2.99, as opposed to like the regular stores or like $3.49, $4.99, $5.99, and then if you're looking at like King Arthur flour, it was like $6.99 a pound for a 5-pound bag. Wow. I usually buy it if I have room. I'll buy that at the wholesale club because it's a lot less expensive, and I really do like King Arthur. Yeah.
So I just buy store brands, and that's really what, I was trying to keep it as best I could. So store brands are going to be about $2.49 in my local grocery store.
Yeah, so, and it's $3.49 for mine for a store brand.
Definitely the just regular chain store is where I'm going to buy my baking things, such as, flour, the sugar. They're going to be where it's a little less expensive.
Interesting. And then overall, spices they had the least variety, but they were the least expensive at Trader Joe's for me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I found. Yes. And
because we looked at things like cumin, cinnamon, and black pepper, kind of things that, we knew that they would have. But I will say there was a large variety of spices at the ethnic market that I went to. And then the like kind of bougie market I went to, the prices were like massively higher, even for some of the same brands.
Yeah, definitely. I found that as well. Now my ethnic market, there are some that I will buy there, or actually I will go to the Latin section in my local grocery store chain to buy the exact same spice that I might buy at the spice aisle, but it'll be less there. So I did look at the spices in my local ethnic market, but they have them and they're good prices, but their packaging, I wasn't so sure.
They're really large containers.
Yeah, so it was harder to deal with. So I actually probably wouldn't buy they would go bad before I could ever use them all up.
Yeah, interestingly, mine had them in multiple sections, and at first I thought all I was going to find were these giant like 12-ounce containers of spices, which is a lot to store. Yeah. But then I found them in another section over by like marinades and stuff. I found smaller containers of them. So they're in multiple places in the same store. Sometimes you got to look around and spend a little time investigating. Right.
And sometimes, it's worth it to your budget to look for those spices in different places, because they will have different pricing sometimes, depending on how they're marketing them.
Yeah. Kind of sticking with the pantry, chickpeas, because I feel like that's pretty common regardless of what type of cuisine you're cooking most often. For dried chickpeas, it was the least expensive at Trader Joe's, was 89 cents for a can of chickpeas. And then I will note that for dried chickpeas, Stop and Shop store brand was the least expensive for a 1-pound bag, but the ethnic market had so many different dried beans, grains, lentils. I mean, they had a ton of variety. Stop and Shop had like one option. So if you ever want some like interesting dried goods like that, definitely check out. And they had some bulk bins too at the ethnic market.
Definitely. The ethnic markets have the larger variety of dried beans. And Trader Joe's and my grocery store tended to be pretty much the same when it came for the canned beans. Because I looked at the chickpeas, but I also looked at just beans in general while I was there, and so they were comparable, certainly.
I did have Google Translate going in full force while I was at that market to try to, some of the things, the way they were labeled, it wasn't Spanish words I was familiar with. And we got a bag of dried beans and I looked up what the word meant. And it was actually, they were cranberry beans, which I've had fresh before from the farmer's market. They look, when they're fresh in the pod, they look so interesting. But then when you cook them, they lose all of their fun patterning. But yeah, definitely using Google Translate or even the like camera you can put on if you're like in an Asian market where you can't read the characters, you can use the camera to kind of translate. Sometimes the translation's a little wonky, but it'll help point you in the right direction.
I do the same thing. I'll use the Google Lens app and do that as well.
Yeah. I found then with like cereal, like Cheerios is kind of a standard everywhere. The best prices were at Stop and Shop, but the Honey Nut Cheerios were on sale everywhere, which was interesting. Like maybe they're trying to push Honey Nut Cheerios on people.
Yeah, I looked at just the regular Cheerios, and the local grocery store was the best price there. But I also decided that's probably why I don't buy much cereal anymore. And cereal's gotten expensive in general, no matter where you shop. Oh,
absolutely. And then just we did look at fresh bread. We figured like a baguette is kind of, I know because sliced bread, there's so many different ways you can go with that. So Trader Joe's had the best price with a caveat. They didn't have a full-size baguette. They had the ciabatta demi baguettes, so they were $1.29 each. So it's kind of like half size. The next least expensive was my regular Stop and Shop because they have a bakery in the grocery store and their breads and pies are actually really, really good. So
I found the same thing. Definitely. Now my local chain store does not have. I don't think they have a bakery inside.
Okay.
There they do have, but somewhere within the area they do. So
oh man, ours is so good. You can get like challah bread, bagels, muffins. I mean donuts. It's really good. And sometimes they'll have, if you have a Stop and Shop near you that has a bakery, they'll have a little tub up on the counter with samples. They'll have like cookies broken into pieces, and you can just go like grab them if you want a little snack. It's great for bribing your children if you need to, or your your husband.
Oh, yeah. When my kids were little, I knew. Oh no, my husband actually does the grocery shopping.
Oh, very nice.
Maybe we should have had him do
this wonder this was a bit of a challenge for you.
I know, yes, it was a bit of a challenge. I think
that's people in the grocery store.
That's because my husband does the grocery shopping because he loves to grocery shop. I'm like, have at it, you know.
Yeah.
So, and he does a really good job of it. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
But I do know where to buy my chocolate at, just saying.
Oh, yeah. Where did you find the best chocolate price?
Trader Joe's, of course. Now, and I was looking at store brand, guys. I wasn't really, because they don't have. And then, interestingly, this was a hard one to compare across the board. But because the high end store had different brands than my local grocery store, but it's basically Trader Joe's. I like the Trader Joe's dark chocolate, so that's what I get. And then my local grocery store, if I had to compare like a Ghirardelli or a Lindt with a Hershey's kind of thing, then it's going to be a better pricing at my chain store.
So yeah, I couldn't find. I know they have chocolate at Trader Joe's, but that aisle was like a zoo, so I couldn't get to it. The best price I found on chocolate was the Ghirardelli at Stop and Shop. Was the regular price is $3.59 for a bar of like dark chocolate, but they have it on sale almost all the time. It was $2.99, and then a bar of Hershey's was $2.79. So you bet for 20 cents more, I'm going to go with the fancier one.
And that's about the price differential that I was seeing at my stores as well. So yeah, definitely.
So I feel like it was really interesting. And I now have like some insight, like with the meat things, like I wouldn't have necessarily thought that it would be so much less expensive at certain places. And by no means does that mean the quality isn't as good. I mean, I'm looking at the meat at La Placita. Their meat looked incredible, and I've definitely bought stuff there before, but I don't do it that often just because it's like an extra trip. But if you're saving like a significant amount of money and it's not that far out of your way, like why not, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you overall notice any kind of trends or anything of note between the different stores?
I think across the board, what I was seeing is that kind of the meats, particularly kind of the more common meats like chicken and things, your more basic meat things are going to be a better budget friendly at my local chain store. So that's kind of what I found there. But I do have, I think with things like places, because I do shop Trader Joe's, almost weekly, guys, or every other week. I think there are certain items that I just like there, and I have some brand loyalty to that, and so that's where I'm going to go for those things. And the price differential might not be all that, it's not that big a difference, so I'm not going to worry about it too much with that kind of thing. So one of the things that my ethnic market is particularly known for is their bakery section.
Oh, yeah.
And they have an on-site, and so that's definitely where I head up for my bakery goods. And so it smells so wonderful when you walk by, when you go there. And you can go running, and I run past it. It's on my running route, and it's really amazing. I was like, I'm going to gain 5 pounds just running by and smelling all these wonderful.
If you ever need to carb load before a race, just run by the bakery, run in, run out. Our Latin market they do the bakery on premises down, so it's like 2 floors, and so downstairs you can see through this little window, you see the racks of all the baked goods, but they're on, like, to actually purchase them, they're upstairs right by the cash register, and there is a lot of really interesting things. And I'm very proud of myself because, I took Spanish in high school, but I've been doing Duolingo for, I'm on like a 500 and something day streak. Wow. Of practicing Spanish every day. And again, because my town has a large Spanish speaking population, so much so that there are classes in the schools here where half of the day is in English and half is in Spanish. And it's as much for the native English speakers as the native Spanish speakers to learn each language. So I know it's useful for me. The French bread baguette type of things that they had there was no price listed. So I was able to ask at checkout in Spanish. They speak English too, but I like to practice my Spanish when I'm there, and I pass at appearance for a native Spanish speaker. So, but I always preface a question in Spanish with, my Spanish is not good, but, and then I ask my question, because if I ask a question and my Spanish sounds decent, they'll assume that they can just talk really fast back at me and I'll understand it, but I can't necessarily.
I like that. It's not what you're saying, because by saying that, my Spanish is not good, or, that it really does.
I'm letting them know it's not my first language. But I'm trying. But
you're trying. And I think that's a really cool, because otherwise, if you were just speak, then they might just answer you in English maybe, or not. You're not indicating that you want to practice. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, after I told her that my Spanish is not good, in Spanish, and then I said, ¿Cuánto cuesta el pan de francés? It's like the French bread. And she said, el largo, and she did her hands long, and I said, sí. And then she told me how, and she told me in Spanish, and I made my note in Spanish that it was $3.29.
Very good.
I'm very impressed. So it was I was very proud of myself for that.
Good for you. Good for you.
If you want to find the show notes for this episode and some of the resources that we talked about, like the difference between the different types of chickens and the shrimp counts per pound, you can find those in the show notes page for this episode at passingtheplate.org/48. That's a wrap on this episode of Passing the Plate. We hope you enjoyed our journey into the world of food, traditions, and the amazing connections they create.
It's been a pleasure sharing these stories and flavors with you. Remember, food is more than just sustenance. It's a way to connect with our past, present, and future.
So keep sharing your meals, keep passing those plates, and keep creating memories that will last a lifetime. Head to passingtheplate.org/podcast for show notes.